Well, good evening, gang. Tonight is officially ambassador training, and we're going to do something a little bit different, maybe a little bit new, and some of it a lot bit new. But I want to spend just a couple of minutes uh, talking about something that I think we can all be reminded of periodically, and that is, can you see this picture, by the way? Did my
No,
share screen work?
no.
Didn't
No,
work. Okay, let me try this again then. Share screen. Entire screen. Share. Why won't it let me share?
Because it's technology.
Oh, that's not going to work. Come on. Now, this is frustrating because what I wanted to show you tonight is very visual.
are you the host or is someone else hosting?
Oh, I'm definitely the host. There
Okay.
we go.
Oh, there we go.
All right. Now,
Okay.
Oh, I saw that.
Now, are you looking at the first thing that popped up, or are you looking at the building of the National Archives?
Liquid BioCell Life
So,
Plus
Okay.
Launch Playbook.
Well, all right. Well, I'm not going to get the PowerPoint to work for me tonight. But anyway, um, we're kind of at a very critical place and a very exciting place in Shaklee history with the launch of the BioCell Life Plus. One of the things that I have noticed is that when I go to Google or TikTok or any place else, there are 10,000 different ways to buy collagen. There are so many brands out there and so many people promoting so much stuff. And you say to yourself, well, the market's saturated, there's nothing we can do. But herein is the most interesting thing. When we started in Shaklee years ago, the first thing we had to do was convince people that nutrition even mattered before we could even talk about the supplements. Today, I think most people understand that, not all, obviously, if you look at their daily eating habits, but most people get it. And what we are in right now is an era where there are many, many people using collagen, aware of collagen, know that it makes a difference for them to some degree or another. And here is Shaklee one more time with a very advanced, unique product that people will probably get significantly better results from than the typical collagen products that are out there. There are even a couple of other liquid versions of collagen, but with the amazing science and research that's behind this product for all the years that Modere was in business, and with the addition of the Shaklee science enhancing that product, we have something that's very unique. So we have a market that's ready for the product we have instead of having to educate them about the need for it. Now it's just a function of what's different. And when you look at the amount of growth that people are having, I don't know how many of you did in fact watch the mission call this morning with the youngest, fastest growing presidential master in Shaklee. She came out of Modere. She obviously brought a large organization with her. But if you haven't listened to this morning's call, I'd really encourage you to do that because I'm going to go through this playbook. And this came from our daughter, who was just in Cabo. She earned the trip. She had a wonderful time down there. She learned some really cool things, met some awesome people, and shared this resource that they shared with the people in Cabo. And I think the thing you will notice if you heard this morning's mission call, there is a lot of commonality. The second thing you're going to notice is there's probably really not anything in here you haven't heard before, but if you listen to this morning's call, you'll hear differently. You'll hear it from somebody who's had an amazing amount of success. You won't hear it from Rick Seymour, even though you've heard it 100 times. So you might take it in a little differently than you have in the past. So I'm going to go through this relatively quickly to show you what's in here. I'm going to forward the link to all of you so you have this available as a resource that you can refer back to. But I think you're going to find a lot of value in what they have put together here. So let's just kind of jump into it and talk about how are you going to attract people? Because one of the things we've talked about often is meaningful conversations. And the more practiced you are at doing this, the better you're going to be able at doing this. You're going to find that there are some things you can think about to make those conversations easier. But I think one of the things to always be aware of, and this was emphasized this morning, as well as so much training we've done over the years, is if you can get in the mode of asking questions, you're going to discover two things. Number one, you're going to get a lot more information from that individual before you ever approach them with Shaklee, so that you approach them in a more effective way. And number two, you're going to discover that when you take that kind of interest in people, they're much more receptive than if you just, as J.K. Baker used to say, pounce on them like a chicken on a June bug with something you are very excited about. So there's a lot of what's in here that's going to remind you of some of the things you can do and say, some of the language you can use when you're starting conversations with people. But before we get into any more of the nitty gritty, I want to mention something. I had a slide that obviously I'm not technologically savvy enough to get up tonight, but it was a picture of the National Archives in Washington, D.C. And there are some monstrous statues in front of the National Archives. They stand about 25 feet tall. And one of them has what I think is a very significant saying on it. Chiseled into the marble, it says, "The past is but prologue." And the reason I share that with you is because there's so many people that seem to think their past equals their future. But the past is just setting you up for a different future if you'll take the lessons learned and figure out where you want to go, whether it's with Shaklee or anything else. And when I think about that, I realize that quite often in this business, we talk about leveling up, but it all starts here between your ears. And the challenge is that if you just think you're always going to be a 2,500 PV a month director, that's all you're going to be. If you can't begin to set larger goals and see yourself doing those things, then all of this stuff is almost irrelevant, because you'll continue to sabotage your performance and everything you're doing to make sure you're right about who you think you are. So part of what we talk about so often is mindset. And part of the mindset right now is recognize that Shaklee is in a very unique posture in the marketplace right now. Roger's goal is we own that segment of the marketplace. I think we've got a really good start on that. And Life Plus, I think, is one of those products that you're going to get such dramatic results from the vast majority of people that try it, that you're going to have some very solid volume growth as you introduce new people to this new product. So as you think about that, think about, where do you want to be in 6 months? Where do you want to be in a year? And recognize that this can be an amazing entry point to really introduce people to all the wonderful things that Shaklee has. Now, before I go any farther, you're probably wondering where my lovely wife is. And just like she's supposed to do, she's sitting over here with her feet up, because she is now 1 week out of hip replacement surgery, and she's trying to behave herself, although I'm not quite sure she did so well today at that. But she's with us, and she's over here, and I hope she will yell loud enough you can hear her to chime in occasionally about some of the things we're talking about. But anyway, one of the things that we need to get good at is sharing our own personal story. So when a conversation has gone to the place where you ask enough questions that you pique somebody's interest, you need to be able to share your own story in like 30 to 90 seconds at the outside. And that means, number one, where you were before you were introduced to Shaklee, what intrigued you about Shaklee, what you noticed after your introduction to Shaklee, and why you're still here and excited. And it really doesn't take all that long to say what's relevant from your perspective about why you're passionate about what you're doing. Because the reality is that stories really get people's attention. Data, facts, figures, graphs, all that stuff that we engineers get excited about, 90% of the population out there couldn't care less. But if they know that you had a significant experience in your life, there's something that changed things for you dramatically, and you're very excited about sharing that passion, that gets people's attention, and that really can carry a conversation forward. So with that in mind, also think about creating some kind of launch event and introducing Life Plus. Aldana and I, at our last leadership meeting with a very small group that we had, decided we were going to do our next leadership meeting on May 1st, the first Friday of the month, as an event. Well, guess what? We were kind of jumping the gun with Aldana's recovery and probably not enough planning and everything else going on to make this happen. But we do, in fact, intend to do this in the relatively near future. And for us being a host, and those of you who want to participate, who are here locally to participate, so we're going to have to do some, strategy in terms of timing and support. Aldana and I are more than happy to supply the snacks and the food and the liquid biocell for people to taste. It's going to be up to you if you want to participate to be inviting people and getting people here. But this is a really good setup for you to introduce new people. And one of the things I found interesting in this playbook is this page on the follow-up. And I think part of it is, how do you set people up? Before purchase, let people know this is a 90-day product and explain what results would typically look like based on whatever their goals are, whether their joints feel better or their skin is better or they're not losing as much hair, whatever that conversation got to. Make them understand you don't take this for a couple of weeks and expect miracles, but if you'll do it consistently for 90 days, that's when you're going to see the results. And then immediately after their purchase, make sure you share again with them how to take it and what to expect. And then on day one, have them take a before photo or at least specifically define what they're looking to happen. And then you're going to find that if you check in at 30, 60, and 90 days and refer them back to either that picture they took of their skin or how hard it was to get up the stairs before they started versus 90 days later, then it's really going to nail down for them that it made a difference. Because too often, changes that happen slowly over time, people don't recognize how dramatic they are unless they look back at where they were when they started. It's kind of like watching your own kids. They grow little teensy bits every day, and over a period of time, you sort of don't notice that. But if all of a sudden they disappear to camp and come back an inch taller, you pay a lot of attention to that. Well, if you get them to focus on the before and after, very specific results they're looking for, I think you're going to discover that you're going to have some great consumers who ultimately then can be introduced to the rest of the Shaklee product line. So I'm going to send this to you. I want you to have it as a resource, but I want you to be thinking about several things. What do you want this business to do for you in the next 6 months to a year? And if you're thinking you just want to stay the same, then most of this is probably irrelevant. But if you really do want to grow, start thinking very specifically about how to learn the language, ask the questions, share a story effectively, and be bold about engaging in conversations with people so that you can expose as many people as possible. And then when we do an event, think about all the people you would like to introduce to it and start thinking about how you will approach them, whether it's through a text, a phone call, an email, whatever you think would be most effective for specific people. And we could talk about more of that later too. But I think we're in a place right now, very strategically, where Shackley is poised right now in a position they haven't been in decades. And I mean that literally. We've had some amazing product launches, but I don't think there's ever been as much exposure about Shackley Corporation in the media, about the kinds of products we have and how commonplace they have become. And people are desperately wondering, what's the best thing I can take? Because there's so many choices out there. They need somebody to lead them through that. So be thinking about all of those things as you start thinking about, okay, where am I taking my business for the next little bit? Because I think for all of us, the reality is that we can change things. We've got an amazing opportunity to do so, but it's just a function of where do you want to go and what do you want to do with this? So any thoughts or comments from anybody?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
When we tell them that this is a 3-month,
Can't hear it.
Could barely hear you, Sheila. I don't know if it's me or you.
Oh, it's her.
it's me. Let's see.
Go ahead.
I'm up as loud as I can go. Is that any better?
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
When
I've
we
turned my
tell-
volume up.
Okay, thanks. When we talk to them about that this is a 3-month trial, they need to be on the product at least 3 months and then judge whether they see any results. Are we allowed to say that they still will get the money back guarantee if they're not happy for the 3 months?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, I think I'm glad you brought that up because I think by and large, most of us do not emphasize that guarantee enough, that people risk nothing by trying Shackley products. So well said.
So, Rick, would they get 90 days? I mean, 3 months worth of refunds?
Yeah, absolutely.
They would. Okay.
Anybody else? Shirley, you look like you're just anxious to jump in and say something.
Well, let's put it this way. I am really anxious about this product. In fact, I had a new client come over today. Her husband is a doctor. I don't know how he's taking all this stuff that she's buying, but she's pretty strong about what she likes to do and all. And so I mentioned to her we were getting the collagen. I got it in. And she already has a friend that she came over and picked up some for the friend already today. So
Cool.
what she said was she told the friend that she mentioned, she says, I've got this friend that has these wonderful products and whatever, and something new is collagen. The friend immediately said, collagen, get me some. So it's like you said at the beginning, collagen is a huge word. And it's so big in popularity. We have the best, of course. And I think just get it out there. And I didn't talk about the taking the picture and stuff, but I could still do that and will do that. But just talk about it. I wrote down here, be bold. Just be bold. Talk about it big time. So I'm sure you all will.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shirley.
I have a question, and I probably should know the answer to this, but I don't. How does the new BioCell compare to the powder collagen?
They do different things. In fact, I think, don't we have a response from Shackley about that?
Yeah, first of all, Roger Barnett uses both.
Okay,
Roger Barnett would never not use both, and Shackley, they talked about it at one of the mission calls, at what the difference is, and I don't remember it, but I can follow up and get back to you on it.
okay, yeah, I still have the powder, and we also have still have some of the old BioCell left.
Yeah,
So
well,
not the new, but
right. We finished the old bios and started on the new.
yeah,
And we mix in the old collagen into our shake. Actually,
that's what we do.
you mix in the creatine and the collagen in our shake.
Yep.
So that's in our breakfast. And then we do the new BioCell. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
Shackley people just use all of it. That's
Yeah.
the way we grew up in Shackley, and that's the way we're trained, and that's what we do.
Yeah. Right. Right. I can just hear my mother now. Take
We
this.
That's right.
That's
Sure.
Pam.
Go ahead, Shirley.
Tell me about the chicken that's used in the collagen.
I don't know.
I know.
There's a science talk that the gal that started Modere and is the scientist behind all this, you have to listen to it to get the nuts and bolts.
And she works for Shackley now.
Yeah, she now currently is basically head of that section for Shackley.
Okay, good. Yeah, I know who you mean, I think.
Yeah, but there's a ton of science behind it, I know, but don't ask
Yeah.
me the details.
I know. Okay.
But I think I shared this a week or two ago that my knees had gotten so bad from the 100,000 moguls I skied over 50 years probably, that I would get dressed in the morning, come downstairs, and I would do everything I could to avoid having to go back up the stairs.
Well, and joint health, some I remember.
And, and I've been taking joint health for years, and it helped my ankle dramatically, but it hasn't helped my knees significantly. And I got such a dramatic result with the BioCell that there have been more than 2 or 3 times where I'm upstairs, realized I forgot to take my BioCell, go back downstairs to take that BioCell, and come back up again. And I would not have done that probably 2 months ago under any circumstances. So I know for me, the results have been dramatic, and I anticipate that there's going to be a lot of people out there that get the same kind of results.
Wonderful.
Any other thoughts or questions before we call it a night?
Yes, just one more. You said y'all do the collagen in the morning with the creatine
Shake.
shake. And so in the evening when you do the BioCell, do you just take it by the tablespoon or what?
Yeah, we take tablespoon
I do.
in the morning and tablespoon in the evening.
Yeah, the BioCell we take separate.
Yeah, we don't
Our
put it
other
into anything.
collagen.
We just take a
Okay.
tablespoon of it.
Okay.
I just swig it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I have one thing. This is a little bunny trail, but not really. You remember Jeremiah that was on 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
My great nephew. Anyway, he sponsored his first person,
Yay.
and yeah, I know he was excited. And so the second week that he was supposed to be on, he got hung up at work, and now he's out at sea. So anyway, he texted me, remember, Aunt Niece, I'm at sea. I won't be on the meeting. But anyway, he's excited. And he said, I enjoyed everybody on that meeting. That was just so cool. So thank you.
Thanks for sharing
Great.
that.
Yeah.
Excited for him. All right. Well, I will send along with the recording that booklet. It's a link that you should save in your favorites. It's not something that I figured out how to download and print, but you can have it there as a resource on your computer to refer to. All right,
Get
gang?
well soon, Aldana.
Yep.
Thank you. I plan on it.
Good night, all.
Good
Night,
night.
everybody. Thank you.
Night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye. Lisa.
Night.
Bye.